for the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impacts. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. On today's show, we're going to be answering the question, how do you actually integrate AI into your business without, of course, wasting time, money, or trust? Our guest today is Chris Reitz. Chris is a strategic, forward-thinking leader who teaches AI and digital transformation at Columbia University. He also works the intersection of healthcare, education, and technology. He's pioneering a new category called organizational intelligence design, where trust, knowledge flow, and AI come together to shape smarter, more human-centered systems. With a background in strategy, analytics, and product design, Chris builds scalable solutions that anticipate the future and elevate human potential. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, Drew. Great to see you.
Hey, man. Listen, I'm really excited to have you on the show because we've known each other for a couple of years now, and I always appreciate your thoughts on AI and on kind of like the cutting edge of technology. And specifically, we were at Innovate this past year, I think, and then we started talking about how AI really allows leaders to scale their leadership and to get their organizations moving faster. I think a lot of people think about AI as this way to augment the human, but it's actually a way to augment the organization. So I'm super excited to have you on the show.
This is the place to have that conversation. And also, it's the last day of 2025. So just a really nice inflection point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get to know you a little bit here. You're a strategist, you're an educator, Columbia University. I mean, these are not small things. How did you start your journey in technology? And then we'll start talking AI a little bit here.
Funny progression here. Rewind the clock to 1999. I was an undergraduate at Transylvania University, and having done a lot of like youth civic engagement, leadership development, and mock government things, I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
for sure I was destined for law school. So, poli-sci, law school, and then I was interested in joining the State Department back then. I didn't take a single poli-sci class because computer science got its hooks in me pretty fast.
Yeah.
And that's when it was over 20 years ago, about 25 years exactly. I started taking these AI classes, and it just captured my imagination. And the big epiphany for me back then was, this is a worldview. This will touch everything. I just didn't know it would happen so fast.
You said, well, you say it happened so fast. Now, I have teenage kids, and 1999 was essentially when we came over on the Mayflower, according to them.
Totally. Yeah.
But no,
Ancient.
25 years. I mean, we're going from, people don't remember when we didn't have cell phones. So you and I both went to college. We didn't have cell phones. We had to use the Dewey Decimal System sometimes to look up the card catalog. Organizing and accessing data is nothing like it is today. What was the coolest thing happening in 1999 from a CS side that like blew your mind?
I mean, well, it was you were pirating all kinds of music in your dorm room, of course,
Yes.
Napster and
Yes.
all
Yes.
those. Yeah. I mean, yeah, basically anyone with an internet connection and a computer could collect whatever media they wanted. It's wild. Um, so,
Of
plead the fifth if anybody follows up on this, but
course, you didn't do that, and I didn't do that, but some of our friends did those things. Yeah.
Totally. And I have a lot of friends who are creators and professional musicians and things. So, certainly not doing that now, but I'll just say it was common practice.
When I got my first job at Bell Helicopter, which was maybe the 2010s ish, 2011, there was a 72-year-old guy that was in charge of technology, and he said something in a meeting, and it struck me that for me and my generation, because of the internet, because of the smartphones, information is really easy to get and to compile. And even to calculate, right? To turn that raw data into something useful, into information. But for him, for those that were 70 in their 70s, 80s, 90s now, they had to work really hard to put that information together. And so their power play was they knew 5, 6, 10, maybe 20 pieces of information that other people didn't know of their industry. But today, I think we have what much more access to that information. What do you use AI, ChatGPT for on a regular basis, just for fun? Just you as Chris.
I'm going to sidestep that question, and I promise I'll answer it.
Nice.
A little political maneuver there. Uh, I just want to quickly reflect that you're referring to the knowledge is power era,
Yes.
which I think is long gone now.
Yes.
It led to behaviors like knowledge hoarding and people kind of being gatekeepers to systems and relationships and things like that. I still see that, but and I think everybody does, but I think that that is a legacy behavior, and it really doesn't. It's a good way to like fence yourself off. What's what's now changing that is kind of a reflection of that past is now we have consumable cognition. Just try that on. Like you can rent a brain from
Yes.
OpenAI and you can go give it a task and it goes off and it crunches that for you.
Yep.
So whereas the internet, or just the proliferation of the internet, not the creation of it, because that happened much longer ago, but the adoption of the internet and it being wired into every home, et cetera, and now it's in your pocket, made knowledge, just democratized knowledge.
Yeah,
That same
totally.
thing is happening, but now it's about intelligence. And so I wanted to kind of set that stage because back when, like you said, back when all of this information was suddenly available, you could Google anything, and that became a verb. Kind of
Yes.
interesting back then. That some skills started to rise around synthesis. Can you weave
Mhm.
together? Can you pull the story out of these disparate sources? But now you can just, if anybody's ever used Notebook LM by Google, for example, you can just give it 20 documents and let it run, or create a podcast. So synthesis now is democratized. It's accessible to anyone. So I just funny reflection. And my parents are now the age of the fellow that you were saying, the guy in his 70s, and they're going through a similar transition.
Well, so yeah, it's I came from this. I do a lot of mentorship. Of course, I do a coaching as a business line, right? But I've always done a lot of mentorship, and so learning what people value. What is the proof of work? So knowledge is power is kind of like it was the proof of work. If you know this thing, you clearly did the work to understand this thing. Um, but and you've brought up two really interesting things. I'm actually kind of stumbling because you've kind of caught me here, and it's super fascinating. The idea of democratized computation and democratized synthesis, but then you're implying that intelligence is maybe this thing, past computation and synthesis. So, what is the proof of work as we look at AI now? If everybody has essentially free access to AI, which goodness gracious, everybody does. Like if you're not paying the $20 a month to have a second PhD brain called ChatGPT serving you, you're missing out.
And it's
What is
free to
the new?
try, by the way, too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's totally free to try, and for $20, you get like a huge amount more, much less the just $200 if you want to get the business level. Um, what is the new proof of work? What should we as humans be doing if computation and synthesis is nearly free?
Love it. Well, I'll point out that domain expertise still matters. I don't
Okay.
think that went away. But one thing that changed was that it used to be that we would convene people around a topic and we would say something like, okay, we're going to solve this big, thorny societal problem. We need an economist, we need a physician, or like a public health kind of person. We need a policy person, et cetera. All experts in their fields. And we're going to get these people in a room and we're gonna work on this thing and come up with some big solution. Well, now you can just summon those experts and you don't have to order any food because, again, they're on your phone or they're on your screen. And also, they don't need a break and you don't have to be the, you can get right into the conversation. It's very efficient that way. You don't have to manage the relationships. This one guy's got a quirky personality. I don't know if he's
Yeah,
going to
there's no
jive over here.
ego.
Yeah, no ego. Yeah, exactly. And you can question them. You can be like, that doesn't sound right, AI economist. So that's one thing to kind of put aside. So we talked about domain expertise. We talked about context being important, but maybe not the great distinguisher that it was. And you were
Yeah.
saying, what's the new proof of work? I think the proof of work now is, what are you doing with it? What's the big impact that you're having on the world? So to me, it almost suggests that the proof doesn't. It's not about show your work. It's more about show your outcome. What impact are you having? What conversations are you convening? Because being human still matters. That's a lot of what I'm here to talk about. So yeah, who are you pulling together? And I think that all points to leadership. How are you interpreting this moment, being discerning about what really matters? There's a lot of noise right now. So how are you finding signal? And then are you getting other people to follow you? Are you influencing? It's kind of a pretty big reframe, but none of this is really new. It's kind of back to
No,
basics.
literally, as I've mentored people for over 15 years now, this is one of the core conversations I have with young people and mid career people. As I say, uh, the world is broken down into kings and pawns. And pawns, their proof of work is how much pain they endured. And you can tell this because they'll say, "Man, I just worked so many overtime hours. Man, I had to miss my kid's ball game. I haven't been able to take a vacation. I have to be at work all." What they're doing is they're trading status by saying, "Look how hard I've worked and look how much pain I have endured." That's their proof of work. Whereas when you get to a different class of people, they say, "This is what I've accomplished. Hey, take a look at this project that I knocked out." So kings and pawns measure success by pain, how much pain they've endured, and kings measure success by how much success they've had. And AI gives us an opportunity to maybe j- all switch over and stop being pawns and all start behaving like kings, measuring success by outcomes. I love that you brought that up. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
So
such a strong frame. Go ahead.
so what was the moment where you realized that the current playbook for AI, which is, hey, I want to better Google, right? Or, oh, I can do this stuff. I'm in these conversations. I'm on the board of the Tech Association of the Bluegrass. We're just helping, connect corporations to the tech talent pool in the area. Um, and everybody's just like, how do I put AI in my business? And they just kind of want to slap it on. It's kind of like the 1990s, 2000s, where if you had a website or you used Java, then you were essentially a god. Like we were just slapping, stuff on there. So, what was the moment? Can you think of a story or a moment where you realized that the current playbook for AI isn't just isn't cutting it anymore?
Well, a lot of it you see in the headlines. A lot of it's these statistics that come out. MIT says 95%, and I hate repeating cliche things like AI is not coming for your job. Not going to finish that one because everybody knows it's very overused. Drives me
Right,
crazy.
right.
But it's in the headlines, I think. It's that people are holding AI to account for something that we've not managed that well for, I don't know, 50 plus years, which is inefficient processes, data that's not well structured or organized, things like that. And we're like, well, yeah, AI, what's all this hype about? It hasn't solved everything, but also I'm scared it's going to take my job and all these things. So to me, the big aha is that AI opens the doors for a new way of working, and that's a lot of what I want to talk about today. It's that it's that we have all this data, and it's supposed to be so promising, and entire industries have kind of spun up around collecting data and things like that. But I think the big unlock is that are we getting the most out of ourselves? Are we identifying and leveraging what makes us human? Things like that. So I don't see organizations just transforming overnight or anything just because AI showed up. I think it's more like legacy organizations are probably going to struggle a little bit to transition. It's the business model innovation. It's people coming in with just a different way of creating value that's AI native that'll disrupt entire industries.
Yeah. All right. So the show today, we're talking about organizational intelligence. So there's AI, artificial intelligence. Um, I like to call it augmented intelligence, where the way I use ChatGPT is I have a HBI. Now in my family, we play this game during the holidays called HBI. It's either a harebrained idea or a huge big idea. And so
Nice.
we just try to come up with nutty ideas and we share them with each other. Um, so AI is a way for me to take those harebrained ideas I have and quickly lay out, hey, what are the steps that are involved in solving this? How would I go about um, sizing the market? It augments and speeds up how I think through things, right? So I use it as augmentation. As I'm a business leader, let's take a mid-tier business, so 200 person, 400 person business. They have all of the legs. They have a sales department and a marketing department and communications, HR, production. They have the whole thing. Um, what are they doing right now, and how can that shift when they start understanding how to use AI as organizational intelligence?
Yeah, love it. What I see is that companies, there are several layers to this. Companies have, in general, begun to give their associates access and kind of support that journey. Hey, let's get you educated, let's train and things like that. But even that's still fledgling, and I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's really the point because people are starting to use AI uh, on their own anyway. But a funny thing about AI is they've already been using it. Netflix has already been figuring out what kinds of shows you enjoy to watch, or your family enjoys watching at home, or so on. Also, Amazon has a really good grasp on what kinds of products you buy, how often, etc. And we don't we don't so AI has been affecting our lives for a while anyway. And then you've got your social media feeds and things like that. We don't we kind of take it for granted. We don't say Netflix's AI recommended this. We just say I found this movie, but we kind of fail to acknowledge that our past behaviors allowed it to find us. Is a nice way to think about it.
Yes.
And so, and then stepping into this, so organizations are starting to turn it on, but what I see is there's not a lot of vision at the top across organizations. I think executives need to become more fluent in AI. So that's more of a skill lens. Even more critical is that mindset about how work is evolving. How's work changing? What's the nature of collaboration? And that's multidimensional too. It's not just people collaborating. It's you collaborating with a variety of systems inside your organization, outside of your organization. AI is coming to the table to you know organize things around decision points that you have. And how does all of this connect? That's the big challenge. And if your C-suite is saying like we got to do more AI, the board, I'm accountable to the board, they're not laying out a vision. I think that that's a big risk.
I agree. And I love that you brought out a couple of really interesting things. One is the frictionlessness. It's so frictionless that we refer to it as, oh, I found this on Netflix, or I found this on Facebook, or I found this on TikTok. But no, it was an algorithm that sent it to you. It was an AI algorithm that sent it to you. AI promises the ability frictionless interruption marketing. So, you go before advertising as it is today. If you were looking for a car, you went to the car dealer. But today, the car, I'm interrupting your life to say, hey, have you considered your car's extended warranty? AI goes a layer beyond interruption marketing, and it naturally proposes the products you already would be interested in. That is super interesting. But you also talk in an organization about some of the things that AI can uncover within the organization, like hidden things. Like I might know something that the marketing department needs to know, or the legal department knows something that I in the engineering department need to know, and that AI can kind of smooth those transitions out. All right, so let's pretend that I'm a CEO. What sort of things can I be thinking about with AI that it can? How can AI help me if I'll just put the module together and implement it in my office?
Now you're getting to what I call organizational intelligence design, which is a new field that I don't know that anyone else is calling it that. So I'd love to, you know, coin that here today.
The
Organization
father of organizational intelligence. I love it. I love it. You heard it here
feel,
first, folks.
feels great. Yeah, and really, I'm stitching together some things that exist. But what I'm talking about is the intersection of knowledge management and AI. And knowledge management's not a new field. That's what I got my first master's degree in at Columbia University, and it actually sets a great foundation for AI and leading through this field. But what I'm talking about specifically is that it's exactly what you said. There's explicit knowledge. It's the things that people are trying to capture in, Wikipedia pages or Confluence, if your organization uses that, or Evernote or whatever it is. Notion also comes to mind. There's the things that have been made explicit, but there's tons of implicit, tacit knowledge that's trapped inside of people's heads. And some of that is inherent because it's just this hidden know-how is a good way to think about it. It's that, when we invoice this company, they kind of ignore our payment terms, and that's okay because we know they're good for it. And so we never follow up on that. We know they're going to pay at day 45, for
Right.
example.
Right.
Um, and it's also that, like, the ask, I call it also like the Ask Dave, like this fictional character, like Dave just knows where the bodies are buried. That kind of talking. There's a cultural element that runs through that as well. There's so many dimensions to this, but the point is that a lot of that kind of knowledge, that hidden know-how, the hard-won things, do not they're not accessible to AI. You can't train a model on it unless you go through this process of getting it out of people's heads. And I think that I'm not necessarily advocating for that. I'm not saying just document everything people know and don't say out loud. It's more like orchestrate a system or an organization or processes that weave together the human process or human decision making with AI that can serve up the knowledge that you need and in the moment, like in the flow.
Yep.
And it goes back to being effective. It's less about just turn over everything to AI and let it decide. I'm not an advocate for that. My mission is about humans. It's that we created AI for our benefit, and it should stay that way. I don't want to just. I'm not an accelerationist. Is kind of a new idea of like, why can't AI just run the government? Well, not everything's
Wonderful.
black and white. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to go there necessarily. That's not my field, but I mean that is a thing. There are people that are pushing for that. And you get people on the opposite end. I'm kind of right down the middle of, well, how can we work together? And how can we do this in a way that increases the value of human contribution?
Yeah. No, so I think that this is the natural result of all new technologies. I think very, very low level AI work is like Kroger being able to predict what sort of ads and I guess coupons it should send you, and like that's back in the 90s.
Mhm.
Um, and I think we all like that, but then it gets kind of intrusive when it's giving us too many ads that we don't, it's too personal. And actually, Jim Collins's book talks about, I think it's Target that went through that cycle, and they realized, oh, people don't like to feel like they're being monitored that much. So we like
Totally.
AI to a point. We like the AI to suggest useful things to us, but we don't like it when it is too cognition. And I think there's a lot of great movies that have been made about that. What are some of the companies? I realize they haven't yet implemented organizational intelligence like you're talking about. What are some of the companies that are using AI right today? What are some of the features that you're like, yes, that is the appropriate use of AI?
That's a good question. Um, I think it's going to typically be the tech companies, but that kind of goes back to, like, are they using it to? A lot of the technology we use these days is free to us, and so I'm not the first person to say this, but the idea that, like, if you're not paying for the product,
You're the
you're the
product.
product.
Yeah.
That's a concern. So tech companies, I think, are leading the charge on a lot of this. But a company that I got to shout out, actually, my good friend Ben Reno Weber, who's here in Louisville, Kentucky. His
Yes.
company, Ben.
He's actually scheduled to come
His
on the podcast here soon. Ben's doing some amazing work.
That's amazing. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really closely connected with Essential Innovations, and what they're doing is Ben figured out early on that there's a ton of inefficiency in how people are surrounded with benefits,
Yep.
and how needs are going unmet that should not go unmet. Like there are benefits, so a really simple one is, and there's diverse stakeholders, so it gets interesting. But a really simple example is the work opportunity tax credit that employers can get for hiring certain populations. So if you have a manufacturing company, 200 employees or whatever, and let's say you hire, there might be a lot of turnover, and you hire, say, one person a month, and uh, 3 out of 4 of those are veterans. Well, you qualify for the work opportunity tax credit. You should, at least, and that's real money toward your taxes. And why couldn't AI help with that? The rules are really well understood, codified. They're out there for anyone, but the process around it is grueling. So anyway, this company, Essential Innovations, is automating a lot of that, and which that automation piece enables them to do it at massive scale. So
Yes.
that's one that comes to mind.
No, I love that because straight automation is something we've done in companies for decades now, and arguably should continue to be done. So, but that just falls under the Toyota production Lean Six Sigma kind of idea. Let's make some workflows. Like you came on the show here, I have a workflow to invite folks on the show. Workflows are just workflows, and they're super valuable, and you should totally have them in your business. But AI goes a little step beyond because it takes that stuff that should be next, like we should be pulling this data in, but it's not exactly tailored to the workflow that I made. So it takes rhyming things and brings it into the process. And Ben's doing a great job with that sort of work.
Yeah,
Um,
spot on.
yeah,
There's something interesting there, because I think you're pointing to, I think what your comments sort of point to agentic AI, which is funny. I never thought of it. That word agentic seems new, but agents,
right, right.
which the word itself suggests that they have agency, and they can also just be like really kind of cut and dry, like tightly defined. But in general, they should these agents have relatively granular decisions or actions that they're performing, but it all
Hmm.
has to do with they perceive a state, they can reflect on it and decide, and then there's a feedback loop that's really critical so that they can kind of evolve over time. Even that doesn't take the human out of the picture, because like you said, maybe there's some edge case, they get stuck, a process breaks or whatnot. So that suggests that the work of orchestrating agents and overseeing basically what I see is that everyone's going to have a workforce at their disposal. So that's a game changer. It used to be that you would go get yourself some kind of training or education, and then you show up on the job and you learn the job.
Right.
Now it's you get some amount of education. It may not be a college degree going forward. I'm hoping I'm very big on education, so I hope that doesn't go away. I don't think it will.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Totally.
But you get some amount of education or training, and you show up. And what I imagine is that to be competitive, it's less about like, hey, I have all this capability, train me and support me. Instead, it's that because of the work I've done in the past, I have this offering and these tools I've built and this ecosystem around me of my agents. And so you're really hiring a workforce, and it could be like, Drew's team, but it's your processes, it's your agents that you've surrounded yourself with. It's the way that you produce content with your ideas. Going back to your acronym, what was it? BHI?
Oh, HBI, harebrained idea.
It's
HBI.
harebrained idea. Yeah. It could start with a harebrained idea, but it's that you have these agents, double checking you and running through your process. But the point is, it's your process. If you have agents kind of supporting that and propagating that, I think you can scale yourself.
So I love this because kind of what you're pointing at here is that we all use agents on some level. Now, in the old days, we used to use interns, right?
Yeah.
Actually, when I was an intern, one of my bosses told me, he called me a voice operated macro. He said, your job
That's
is
funny.
just to go. And that's kind of what AI is a, especially with, because you can actually talk to ChatGPT, is you have this voice operated thing that can go do a little bit of work that you trust them. If they mess up, it's not that big of a deal. But now every one of us can be a CEO of a small company with 5 or 10 employees running for us. And then we can kind of tailor those workflows, and we can get what we want out of our employees. The reason that I wanted you on the show is because we both share this excitement, um, that AI isn't going to replace humans. It's going to augment us, and it's going to change our thinking. The ones that are going to succeed are the ones that are going to master leadership. That's the way that I would phrase it. You phrasing it in organizational intelligence is it's probably more useful for the conversation. But my idea is AI is very useful for me because I treat it as a PhD new grad who is very intelligent but needs a little bit of guidance. And then you get into the agents and you say, well, now I can put a couple of those PhDs together to work on minor pieces of product, and then I can put a product manager over them. And it's all about mentorship and developing of the skill set. However, there is this like emotional pullback because that seems like too much. And the reason we like humans is we feel like we have a more of an emotional connection. So, how do you, as a leader, how do I, as a CEO, think through AI implementation in my organization, which is going to be organizational intelligence, and manage that emotional trust factor? How do you How do you contrast typical AI rollouts with how we need to manage the emotional element of humans and the AI relationship?
So this brings up the idea of exponential careers in my mind.
Oh yeah, talk to me about that.
And this is a big shift. And this is another one that I don't know. I've looked and I don't think anyone else is quite talking about it like this. So I'm claiming the space of exponential careers.
I love
Here
it.
we are in the AI twilight. Twilight meaning dim or diffused illumination.
Mm,
So the past used to illuminate the future because we could look back and say, like, this is how things played out before, or I've seen this situation before. Things are changing so fast. The rate of change is completely unprecedented. We're digesting change at a higher volume and a higher frequency than ever before. And it's disconcerting. It's very unsettling. But for those of us who have a vision, and I think everyone's capable of this, but if you have a vision for the life you want, or how the world should work, or how business should run, and you can trust yourself, that's really important. The word courage comes from, I think it's Latin for heart. So, like, if you have heart for your ideas, if you believe and you're passionate, that you can lead yourself first. And I think that's the critical piece. Self leadership is going to be huge.
mm.
It already is. And by leading yourself and being an independent thinker and maybe seeing things or embracing an uncommon view, that you can chart a path forward into this uncertainty that might be a step ahead of everyone else. And that's a good way to get people to follow or just to be noticed. So there's a lot of I'll pause there, but that there's a lot of we're pushing into a whole new territory, and there's going to be new skills. But I kind of started off by just saying like trust, like have faith that things are going to be okay.
I love that optimism, to step forward into the unknown with courage. And I think that maybe is what we connect on and what is so distasteful about our current society. We feel like there's no frontiers left. It's all been mapped. But AI posits the ability to take your HBIs, take your big ideas, and to get them to a workable spot. You talked about this earlier in the show that the future of productivity, of proof of work, of status is going to be on what you achieved, not how hard you worked to achieve it. Um, So, all right. So let's say that I'm a mid-career person, and I'm in my 40s, maybe my 50s, which that's arguably later career, maybe in my 30s, and I realize, wait a minute, this wave is something I need to ride. I don't have time to go back and get an MBA. Arguably, an MBA in the world of AI is marginal. How should I think about taking advantage of this exponential careers idea and kind of get off the track that I'm on, and then change that angle and start taking off?
You said it. First, I want to take issue with this idea that there are no frontiers left, because if you don't see the opportunity to push into the unknown, I call it pulling the future toward yourself. If you don't see that opportunity to pull the future toward you, it's
Yeah,
that you're looking to the past. Your view is obscured. You need to about face and stare into the chasm. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable, in my opinion. Um, and you might want to look away. That's okay. But it's that we were talking about earlier that the past no longer eliminates the future. So um, the, one thing that compounds that is that there's also fewer feedback loops. I mean, it used to be easier in kind of a linear career progression
mm,
that you could just look around and you could see how you were doing. You could get quick feedback from other people. But if
yes.
you're building something truly innovative, no one else is around to be like, keep going, you're almost there. I've been on this track. It's just not going to happen. So
There's
what
a
I
there's,
see, go
there's an
ahead.
old phrase in consulting, which is nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM. And what they
Yeah,
mean
exactly.
is it doesn't matter if they did the job, it matters whether you could prove that you were being responsible when you started the game. And so people took the safe path. Nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM or Lockheed or uh,
Kenzie,
Toyota
Deloitte.
or whoever, right? The big name in the industry. But it's so what you're speaking about is we have as a society become so good, I'm using air quotes, good at risk management that nobody's taking risks. Um, I
Wow.
got excited about what you're saying. So I'm going to jump back to you.
Yeah.
So how do we, with exponential careers, uh, start moving forward into those frontiers?
Yeah, so the idea with exponential careers is that you can't see around the corner like you used to be able to, or you can't see the path ahead, and so you kind of have to trust that the pace of change is bringing forward a better future. So that's that faith piece. You just kind of have to trust, and um, and also it's foggy. I mean, just like AI, like change. The nature of change is has kind of been disrupted, so it's just happening faster. So it, the way we perceive time just isn't doesn't really translate to this moment. So it's like highly uncertain, and to me, it's more about mindsets. It's more about embracing that uncertainty, or at least being able to kind of sit with it. A new skill, or an increasingly important skill, I believe, is that in the era of misinformation at massive scale, and also disinformation, there's a difference there. Um, Misinformation is like less intentional. It's just that there's like bad info out there. And a lot of that could be created by AI or at least propagated.
Right.
Disinformation is when it's purposeful. Someone's trying to mislead you. Anyway, based on where you're, I mean, you could look at two media sources, and they're giving two different angles on a topic. This is happening a lot in the political arena. Um, I don't want to go too deep into that, but people talk about fake news. Like that wasn't a thing 10 years ago, you know. So the idea that we will increasingly encounter facts that are completely contradictory.
So,
Um,
what, and because I've had this conversation with a couple of my friends in the IT space, the idea of trust is going to fall off a cliff with AI. We're falling off this trust cliff, right? Um, but I think the analogy is actually the 1700s. So if you imagine we're here in the American Revolution, right? 1776, 1780. Um, People were writing random things in the newspaper, right? Like it was like, I have a newspaper and I'm going to publish some stuff and it's going to be based on rumors. And it's like, it's just people saw some stuff and I'm going to write down what I feel about that. And there's no governance whatsoever. It's just out there. Um, and so I think that like the people in the 1700s, 1760, 1780, I think that they had an internal truth filter. Like they're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Um, Whereas today, when I talk to people, um, there's a third person in the conversation that shows up a lot. Her name is Shirley Not. So I'll say something that challenges their worldview, and they'll say, surely not. And then
Yeah,
as if that's the argument, it's just like, surely not.
that
Um,
can't be.
yeah, that
Yeah,
can't be, which is not a logical engagement of the facts or potential facts. It's a refusal to assess the worldview and assess the data. Whereas if you're in the 1760s, I think that you had a dialogue on it, because you didn't have this mountain of truth. You just had to decide for yourself. Does that make sense? Does that not make sense? And I think that we're going to reach back into a spot where we as individuals have to make a judgment call on whether we think that this piece of information is true or not.
I think that's spot on. Yeah, the concept of cognitive dissonance comes to mind. Like the way I see things doesn't fit with this new, idea that I'm encountering, and people just shut down or close it out. And I think that that could be a mistake. I think it's really important to have a filter and to be discerning. I mentioned earlier, but I think that I think a good way to flip that surely not is to say, what if, or how could we? To just be more attuned to the possibilities. I think that is an executive mindset, because it opens up your options instead of shutting down and saying, close that door. We're not going to consider that. Um, that may be the outcome, but just to consider multiple possibilities. I mean, right now you've got think about like how broad the technological changes are. AI is unlocking the ability to accelerate, like, things like protein folding and simulate digital twins and things like that, virtual worlds and all these things. And I'm not trying to just like drop all these things, but at the same time that's happening, like, medicine can try different scenarios more rapidly, or instead of a radiologist who's seen maybe 1,000 scans, you could have a machine that's s- not only seen, but, remembers millions of scans of, tumors or whatever it is.
Yeah.
On top of that, now you've got blockchain and crypto and all these things kind of making steady progress,
Hmm.
um, becoming more ingrained in the financial systems and things like that. And then further out, you've got quantum computing. And I'm not here to talk about that. I'm not, those aren't my fields exactly, but just to say that there are all these accelerants just waiting in the wings, and we're worried about, like, is AI too smart? I think people are missing the point. It's more, those are important things to consider, and we need to be responsible about how we're stewarding this raw capability and how we apply it in our lives and how it shows up in our companies. But I don't think it's something to fear. It's more about how do I retain my agency? It's very self-defeating to just kind of shut down and say, like, it's too scary, so I'm not gonna keep going. Instead, I think it's more, yeah, where do I want this to lead for myself?
Yeah. No, I think what you're pointing at is kind of what I brought up with my mentor in a long time ago. His name was Jim. Um, Jim spent a lifetime learning maybe 100 really important things about helicopter design. And he was great at helicopter design. I'm not picking on him. He was legitimately a genius, leader in his field, led the company and the industry for decades. Um, but he spent a lifetime mastering one topic. And I think AI posits that we don't have to spend a lifetime mastering one topic. Um, the skills that we'll need to master are how to how to ride this bull. But as we look at our careers, those of us if you're not looking at your career as an exponential curve where you're going to master mechanics and electronics and nuclear physics and protein folding, that the leaders of our next decade are going to be those people that have taken the exponential path and hyper threaded a lot of learning and then filled in the gaps with the AI agents to make the individual essentially a corporation. I think it's a really exciting future because of the possibilities. So if you could have,
I love what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. So if you could list out just um, three skills really quickly that I should have to ensure that my career can go from the trajectory that it's on to the trajectory it should be on, and it could be on because of AI. What three skills should I master?
Um, I would say, get comfortable with uncertainty would be one. And that looks like not always knowing, being willing to be wrong, and just being curious, just the thirst for knowledge. That'd be the first one. Second one would be um, following your following your gut. It kind of follows that first one, but in terms of if you find yourself at the nexus of two things, like um, Scott Adams, for example, Dilbert, he combined comics with making commentary on office politics,
Right.
and he's the goat, for Dilbert speaks
Totally
for
different.
himself. Um, so the second skill would be, how can I be true to myself while combining multiple things I'm interested in? And you might think about like a polymathic type of person, they've got their hands in multiple things. I think that's most people actually. A lot of people want to go, deeper and not broader. I think that the age of the generalist is upon us because you can, let me put it this way, in a linear career progression, if you take your eye off of one ball, if you're advancing, a field, and you aim slightly off of that, you adjust your aim by 5% or something like that, you lose a lot of the footprint and impact that you would have had in your initial focus. With I think you can broaden your aperture quite a bit and you can keep learning down this path, or have agents be exploring a body of knowledge, or playing out scenarios or whatever it is, while you go and it might be something completely different. You can come back to that a lot easier than in the past. And
Yeah.
evidence of this would be, how often did people change careers, like completely jump industries in the past? I think it was actually pretty rare. You might
Yeah.
get one or two, maybe three chapters, but that expert in helicopters, that example that you gave, that was much more common, that people would just have one path that they stay on.
Yeah.
And it's
No, I
also
agree.
and that plays. I know I need to give you a third skill, but it plays into some other trends that are happening right now. I like to talk about portfolio careers. Another way to think about it is layering. Like, are there roles I can play? I'm not talking about work-life balance exactly, but it does affect that. But I'm talking about, can I can I be a corporate person some of the time, but also teach, and then also consult? I think that that's increasingly common. And oh, and by the way, like content creator and a podcast, I've got a podcast, and um, I build stuff. I think that's going to be, I think that's everyone now has that capability, instead of just saying like, I have one single lane. The exception to that could be if you're really interested in a skilled trade. So just want to kind of like park that off to the side. If you love plumbing, then that's probably going to be lucrative enough that all the other things could fall under the realm of hobbies. But for
Right.
the rest of us, for us knowledge workers, like, it's a good thing that we're branching out, I think, in this moment. And to use AI, you're accelerating, you're giving yourself a ton of leverage to move further faster.
Yeah. We are running out on the show. We're at 50 minutes now, so we're running out of time on the show. This idea of the AI empowered Renaissance man is super fantastic, or super exciting to me. It actually, I'm a generally optimistic person to begin with, but just in your last kind of run there, you've given me a lot of hope in things like my juices are flowing. I'm really excited about using AI to become the modern Renaissance man, rather than the doom and gloom of general like general income, or what do they call the income thing where everybody gets income?
Oh
Um,
yeah, UBI, Universal Basic Income.
yeah, universal basic income, which is,
Yeah,
I think,
where's that coming from?
depressing. I think it's the bane of our society. I mean, I like communism as much as the next guy, as long as I get to be in charge, but in a general sense, not for communism. Good idea, wrong species, sort of a thing.
Interesting.
But all right, we're running out of time. I'm going to turn the show back over to you for 2 or 3 minutes here. Just talk to the audience, give us some great thoughts from Chris here, and then we will wrap up the show.
Yeah, I mean, what a time to be alive. Here we have this great capability, this raw capability of AI, and I think of it as consumable cognition. Excuse me. AI is intelligence on demand, and you can point it to whatever you are interested in, whatever you need help with, or it might be something that you've mastered that you want to delegate. In the past, that would involve, finding, sourcing candidates and screening people and managing them. I think that job of management doesn't go away, but it's more like coordination now, and you don't get all the messy human issues and drama and things like that. Instead, it's about convening AI around the problems that are of most consequence to you and shaping the future world that you want, bringing forward the future that you desire. And think about doing that at massive scale. Think about everyone having the same ability. I think people are going to embrace it at different rates. But if everyone, let's move forward 5 years, which is really hard to think that far out right now because AI is changing so fast. But if you just think ahead 5 years with the current capabilities, more people are going to come online. More people are going to bring their passion to bear, and they're going to use AI to get further faster. They're going to be able to do things at greater scale and explore different scenarios and venues. And geography doesn't really matter anymore because I know you and I are, less than an hour apart. But even if we were on complete opposite ends of the world, we can connect. And so if I show up better to a conversation because I let my curiosity run wild on a topic that we're discussing, we're going to have a better conversation. And I think that brings it back to a lot of the things we've talked about, which is the value of being human, the value of your unique perspective being exchanged with mine, and we're vibing around a topic that we're both excited about. Well, AI is only going to make that better, I think. The risk is, though, that this shared resonance could get fragmented. So you and I have connected in person, we're friends, but if we're increasingly sorted by algorithms, meaning the content that is shown to us is just a reflection of our existing beliefs distilled by, other algorithms, that becomes a problem. So I think, stay human, don't get too far down any rabbit holes, and keep connecting, keep doubling down on these human relationships. I think that's everything.
I love it. I love it. And you guys can see why I wanted to have Chris on the show. Listen, Chris is an amazing guy. I've just dropped his LinkedIn link into the comments. Reach out to Chris. If you're an organization and you're asking yourself, how do we implement AI correctly, from a philosophical point of view, not just from a can I buy a service point of view, reach out to Chris. He's got a advanced degree in organizational design. He's been doing AI for decades now. He's the right guy at the right time to connect with, to figure out how to intelligently implement AI in your organization. Lots more things to say about him. Reach out to Chris. Tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. And with that, we are out.